So we've got
straight hair.
John in Chicago. How are you?
Yo, what's up, Matt?
What's up?
How's it going?
We're good.
It's going pretty well.
Cool. What's up, man? I guess my question was for you, Matt. Hold on, let me take you off speaker.
That'd be a good idea.
Yeah, do that, because,
Yeah, is that better?
A little bit better, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, my question was for you, Matt. You said that you're a humanist, right?
Yes.
Yet you believe that moral relativism is wrong.
Yes.
So as a humanist, where do you derive your moral standard?
From reason and empathy.
Whose reason and whose empathy?
Mine?
Well, who's to say that you're better than Martin's?
Me?
Well, isn't that moral relativism?
Nope. Moral relativism, in the strictest philosophical terms, and the moral relativism that I reject, is the idea that something is in fact moral only because a society says so, so that each society can have their own moral ideas and they're all right. My position is that that's not actually true, that there are truths about how we interact on this planet that can be discovered, and that people can in fact be wrong about morality.
But only Matt knows them.
No. You asked me what I use and what my basis is. Could I be wrong? Yes. The method for demonstrating that I'm actually wrong is to present argument and evidence that I'm actually wrong. I didn't proclaim that my views on morality were necessarily superior to Martin's. We were talking in the context of what you were asking. And when you ask how I go about it,
relativism.
There's no moral relativism that I'm advocating. That's not moral relativism, the idea that I think I'm correct. Don't you think you're correct?
I think you're incorrect. I think.
Okay, but that's not what I asked. Do you think you're correct?
In which regard?
Whatever. Pick something. Don't you think you're right about pretty much? I mean, do you knowingly think that you're wrong about something and still maintain that position? Just as human beings, we tend to think that we're correct.
Right.
And yet we are wise to recognize that we may in fact be incorrect. Right?
Right.
Okay.
Which is relativism.
No, I just explained to you what I was specifically rejecting with moral relativism. Has nothing to do with the fact that we're recognizing I might be right.
Yeah, accepting the possibility of being wrong is not the same thing as relativism. Relativism is the idea that everything, everything permitted, nothing is true, or something like that. It's this whole idea, as Matt said, that anyone can pretty much hold any view that they wish, base it on anything whatsoever. It could have a good basis in reason and evidence, or it can simply be pie-in-the-sky wishful thinking. But if your answer is right to you, then I'm right, you're right, everyone else is right.
It's an appeal to individual truths, which I tend to reject. You see,
like morals.
No, I'm talking about the idea that something could be true because it's true for you. That's the thing that I'm actually rejecting. See, we're physical beings in a physical universe that obeys physical laws, and that means that there are truths to be discovered about the way we interact. Just as there would be for our physical health and our mental health, there are truths to be discovered about societal health and the health of relationships. And they're not just merely subject to opinion. It's not.
Let's say genocide, for example.
Sure.
Is that relative?
You're not even asking questions that really make sense in the context of this conversation. What is it you want to know?
Well, you claimed that you don't believe in moral relativism.
Well, I believe there are people who believe in moral relativism. I'm saying that I do not accept the positions of moral relativism, that something is true merely because a society deems it so.
And I asked you, where do you derive your morals?
Which I've already answered, and then you asked something about genocide, so I'm trying to get to what it is you want to know.
Well, the point I'm making is you're contradicting yourself when you say that moral relativism is wrong, but then you say, well, my morals are derived from my own logic. Okay. And my own reasoning.
My morals are derived
relative to
John,
you.
John, John, no, it's not, first of all. But my morals, when I say I use my own reasoning, it's because I don't have any choice but to use my own reasoning. My brain is the one that does the thinking for me. There's no other option. Everybody is stuck doing that. Now, that doesn't mean that the arguments and evidence that I've evaluated in a particular way, that there aren't additional arguments, better arguments, and other evidence that would then change my mind. This is not an assertion that every opinion I have is necessarily right because I have it. I haven't said anything remotely like that.
I didn't say that.
Well, that's the
all.
only way that you could say that I'm in contradiction is if I am asserting that my positions are correct, because that would be the rough equivalent of moral relativism.
Do you believe that morals exist?
What do you mean?
Do you believe that
as a concept,
rape and murder is wrong or right either way?
Do I believe there are truths to be discovered about those interactions? Yes. That doesn't mean morality is our evaluation of actions and the consequences of those actions with respect to values. Morality is about the welfare of thinking beings. It's not a thing that exists. It is a conceptual label that we put on evaluations of things. Hey, this is good. This is not
conceptual label. So it could be relative to my opinion or yours, right?
Well, the thing that it's pointing to, the determination of whether or not this action improves or decreases the well-being of individuals, is not just a matter of opinion.
It's not?
No.
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 Why would it be? I mean, your life is either better off or it's not.
If the observable consequences of an action are that action caused demonstrable harm, then that's not a matter of opinion, because you can see those results. So that's not opinion. If the demonstrable results of an action are that they are beneficial, then you can observe those results. It's not opinion.
Well, beneficial according to who and what standard is what I'm trying to
it depends.
Ask you.
It very much depends. One of the things.
If it depends, then it's relative, Matt. Come on.
No, it's not, John. If you'd shut the hell up and let me finish my sentence, you wouldn't look so stupid.
I'm not looking stupid, but go ahead, sir.
Yes, you are. When you interrupt me to say that it's relative in the middle of the explanation that's going to demonstrate.
Well, it depends.
John, you interrupt me one more time, I swear I'm going to hang up on your ass.
Oh, that's what you do, man. So go ahead.
Yes, you're right. It's what I do. Do you know why?
Because you don't have an argument. You're contradicting yourself.
No, how am I contradicting myself? You haven't even let me finish or explain. You just keep making assertions that what I'm talking about is relativism when I say it's not. What you don't seem to understand is that what I actually advocate is something called situational ethics, which is in no way relativism.
Situational ethics.
Situational ethics. That is the evaluation of each situation on its own. Now, we can compare each situation analogously to other situations in order to help make it easier to evaluate the moral truths about that situation. But each individual situation is on its own merits. There are, when I advocate for moral absolutes, I'm talking about with any particular situation, there is a finite set of possible actions. Some of these actions are better than others. Some of them are worse than others. The standard for better or worse are also applicable to that situation. And that means...
According to who?
Would you let me finish?
Who does it have to be according to?
I don't
that's
know.
That's what I'm trying to get at. You want to come back to this according to who thing. Let me ask you a couple.
The fact that you're going to an according to who is what demonstrates that you're wrong. It's not a who, it's a what. It's because reality.
I know where you're trying to argue this from. You're trying to sort of argue from the position that morality is some kind of authoritarian thing. But let me just ask you a very basic question. If you witness something occur, some sort of event, whatever it is, let's say it's an automobile accident. Let's say it's a parade. Let's say it's a bunch of kids on a merry-go-round having a good time. Let's say it's a drive-by shooting. Whatever it is you witness, do you think that you yourself are capable of drawing a conclusion about whether what you just witnessed was a good thing or a bad thing, whether it was harmful or beneficial? Do you think that you can look at what you witnessed and say, that was awesome, or uh-oh, that's bad, maybe I should call the cops, or maybe I should get help? Are you capable of doing that?
Yes, I am.
All right. Well, then what's the problem?
The problem isn't what we observe. It's how we morally feel about what we observe.
But if your assessment of either the beneficence or the harmfulness of an action comports with reality, how is it a problem? I mean, if you are capable of making...
I didn't say it was a problem.
Well, yeah, but you just said you did. You said the problem was in how we assess it. But how is it a problem? I mean,
No,
if you think that you're capable of simply witnessing an action, deciding whether or not it is either good or bad, and then acting accordingly, either getting help or if it's needed or not, if it's not needed, if you think that you are capable of making the appropriate response to any kind of moral circumstance, how is this difficult to understand? How is it a problem?
It's not a problem.
All right, well then fine. Why are we talking? I mean, you get it, right? You're capable of making that decision. You acknowledge that you are capable of witnessing an act and making an appropriate moral decision. Well, so are we. So is pretty much everyone. And in those cases,
I didn't say you weren't.
Well, then fine. Why is this an issue among theists? Why is this an issue really among anyone? I mean, if we understand that as a species that we're intelligent enough in order to get along with each other, that we know what's good for us and what's bad for us and what's good for each other and what's bad for each other, and that we're able to act upon that, fine then. I mean, it's all good.
Well, I mean,
let's live our lives.
To start off with, he called in to say that because I'm a humanist and because I reject moral relativism, I'm therefore in contradiction. And yet you haven't in any way attempted to argue or establish that. Instead, you offer these things that you claimed were contradictions, which actually aren't. Because the only thing you need to be able to make a moral assessment is information about the action and its consequences, and the value that you are comparing it to. That's it. Now, theists will appeal to values that they have invented from their Bible or their holy book or their personal opinion about what God thinks.
That's wrong.
I agree. It's wrong. You shouldn't do it. I have as a set of values. I have as a set of values the facts about reality and about who we are. Now, which one would you rather be in line with?
Well, first of all, what you said about theists is wrong.
No, it's not.
Well, maybe not you, but others.
You said that theists get their morality from a book, or they're made up God, or they're made up. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
I said their opinions about their ancient book, or their opinions about what God thinks. Where do they get it from, if not that?
Their morality, their opinions on morality?
Yes.
Theists believe that all people share the same morality. Therefore,
well, that's now hang on. All people share the same morality or the same views about morality? Because clearly the latter isn't true.
Say that again.
So you said, first of all, you say theists believe, and that's just absolutely absurd, because theist is just a position of acceptance that there's a God. It says nothing about what you believe about morality. Theist and atheist would be the top level thing, so we'd have to talk about specific...
biblical theist,
Christians.
If you prefer.
Mm-hmm. Christians, sure.
I'm a Christian, so I'll argue my point of view.
Sure.
I believe that all people share the same objective morality.
What do you mean by that?
Murder's wrong, rape is wrong. But there are things that are objectively wrong.
John, I'm asking, do you think that people share the same morality, or the same objective reality, or that they have the same opinions? Because obviously people have different views about morality.
Right.
Okay, so what...
But we all exist that people are moral beings.
What do you mean by moral beings?
We have opinions.
What do you mean by moral beings?
That we have opinions of actions, whether they're right or wrong.
Okay, good
or bad.
Okay, sorry. Yes, I agree with you. We all have opinions about whether things are right or wrong. So what? I asked where you derive your morals from in such a way that you're objecting to my position.
My morals, I believe, are ingrained into me. I'm not saying that atheists don't have morality, because it's also ingrained into them.
What do you mean by ingrained into them? Because it could be that we agree.
That we all agree that rape is wrong?
I understand. There's no reason to come up with a specific example, because you're going to find specific examples on which we agree and specific examples on which we do not agree. So it's probably better to talk about this at the top level rather than specific examples. So,
well, you had a call with G-Man that I saw where you said that slavery was absolutely wrong.
yes.
You say that no matter what, slavery is wrong.
Actually, what I've said many times is that I can think of no situation and no circumstances under which anyone could justify the owning of another human being as property. That doesn't mean that it doesn't necessarily exist, but I find it preposterous to think that it does. Just because there are various evaluations of things doesn't mean that there aren't still absolutes for certain situations, and enough of them could be that there's no situation in which this is not immoral.
There's only one that I've heard in a historical context.
But
So is that your statement, Matt, that slavery is absolutely wrong no matter what? Do you stand by that statement? If you do, then...
John, did you not just hear me? I just clarified this for you so that you would not pull up a silly little straw man about what my position is. And I also said that there's no reason for us to get into specific moral issues because we're going to find some where we agree and some where we disagree. What I've asked for is, what is your moral foundation? How do you derive your moral views?
I derive mine from faith that God created us all with the same moral code.
Okay.
That is
first of all, I'm not going to accept any faith-based claims, and if you're going to say that there's something wrong with my position and your position is better because faith, well, you failed.
I didn't say that.
I'm sorry.
I think you just did, John.
You didn't just say that it was because of faith?
I said that I have faith that God created us all.
Okay,
I did not say
so
I was
what?
better because I had faith in that.
No.
Okay,
But you
well,
said that was your basis.
This is
Yeah, that's my basis.
Okay,
you don't
What's your
think
basis
you don't
of
you don't
morality?
think you don't think your morals, you don't think your moral views, your moral values are better?
I think that we all have the same moral values.
No, we
I just
don't.
think that I can justify mine.
No, we don't. Are
and
you
can't.
are you opposed to abortion?
Yes, I'm opposed to abortion.
I'm not. So clearly we don't have the same moral values. Now,
Are you opposed
getting back to this, so you've already made a claim that's flatly false, that we
You're
don't
admitting
all
that-
share.
Matt, if you say that, then you're admitting to moral relativism.
No, I'm not. And no matter how many times you assert this, you're not going to get any closer to demonstrating it. And you're getting really close to ending the call.
Yeah, because it sounds like you're determined to continue to define moral relativism, I think, simply by pointing to the fact that people can disagree on moral precepts. And anytime you see an example of someone disagreeing on a moral precept, you're like, oh, well, then there you go, it's moral relativism. But that's not what that means.
See, and the reason is we have a different view on this one issue, and the reason we have a different view on this issue is because I have specific values about people's worth and reality that are based in reality and based in evidence, and you, on the other hand,
Based on Matt's
and
reality.
then based on the reality that I think that we all share, but you have faith that God has planted in your heart the correct view.
No, I didn't say the correct view.
Okay, so you think God's view is wrong?
No, I don't.
So you think God has planted His view of morality in your heart, right?
Yes, I believe
Do
that
you
it's morally
think,
wrong to murder.
John, do you think that it's the correct view of morality, or do you think God is wrong?
Do I think it's the correct view of reality?
Oh, please. Do you speak English? You think God put His morality in your heart. Do you think
Yes.
it's the correct morality?
Yes, I believe
Then
it's
why
wrong
did you
to
say
commit
that?
murder.
Why did you challenge me on that when I just said that you believe God put the correct moral views in your heart?
And you believe that you're allowed
John,
to
I swear if you redirect this one more time, I will hang up
Dodgeball.
and block you from the show forever.
Dodgeball.
All right, man.
I'm not playing dodgeball with you. I said something, you said I was wrong. We had to spend a minute backtracking for you to finally admit that I was actually correct. And now I'm betting in a couple seconds you're going to come back and make another assertion about relativism. Let me put it to you simply. You have no foundation for your beliefs. I am offering a foundation in reality, one that is demonstrable, one that is based on evidence, one that we can both investigate and explore. And even if I swear you're done. Bye.
Yeah.
Even if you want, you're objecting to moral relativism. There are plenty of atheists who, by the way, are moral relativists. I know quite a few of them. We disagree. We have amazing arguments and discussion. None of them are nearly so frustrating as trying to talk to people who make appeals to faith and think that they're correct because God told them so, which is basically what John is saying. Instead, we are human beings stuck in a universe. We are operating according to the rules of that universe. And just as there are truths to be discovered about physical reality, which is also part of morality, mental effects, which is also a part of morality, there are truths to be discovered about social situations, personal interactions, relationships, all of those things. To say otherwise is to appeal to magic. It's to invent a layer that doesn't exist, for which we have no reason to think it exists. And whether you want to, if you're going to object to moral views, try to at least, not present them as something they're not. Don't just assert that somebody's a moral relativist just because they're talking about evaluating evidence. Because basically what you're trying to do there, John, is say, hey, you don't have a solution for hard solipsism. For all you know, you could be the only brain, and then now it really is only your opinion, so it's all subjective. Well, you're right. We don't actually have a solution to hard solipsism, and it doesn't matter one bit, because I'm stuck interacting in a reality where, as far as I can tell, I'm real and you're real. Otherwise, I'm a really sick and twisted individual who likes to call myself on the phone and say stupid things and pretend that my position is something other than it actually is. And that's a really scary prospect that I could be that crazy.
I consider these moral arguments with Christians to be a massive waste of time anyway. Because after going through all of that rigmarole and dodging answers and and just spinning around in this kind of rhetorical cul-de-sac where no one's getting anywhere, at the end of the day, most of the time, these are the same people who will look at you and say, well, salvation is by faith and not works anyway.
Yeah, in addition...
So it's like, well, why does it matter? Why is morality even part of the Christian way of thinking if salvation simply comes down to faith and no works that you perform have a bearing on it?
Yeah. It's also, at the end of the day, when you say, okay, let's compare our moral positions. Set aside the basis for the moral positions. Let's just actually compare them and go down the line and see which of our views, the humanistic view, would produce a better world. One that is less divisive or more divisive? Well, I think we already know that one. One that is more in tune with the needs of human beings here and now, or one that has the entire existence on the planet being nothing more than a temporary place to wipe your feet until you get to go to the permanent happy land, that everything of this world is like dirty rags. Those are the values within your religion. Now, maybe God didn't write that part on your heart, but that's the other thing I didn't get to mention, John, is God wrote something on his heart, and he wrote something different on somebody else's heart, evidently. Talk about your moral relativism.
It's really ironic because just before driving down to the studio today, I posted a frame grab of a Twitter exchange that I had with a Christian who asserted very, very bluntly that if he could confirm that he had a command from God and that God was telling him to kill, he would do it. But he would have to confirm it, but he would do it.
Yeah,
now, this is the problem with having, a moral sense that really is nothing but obedience to authority. There's no morality in just blind obedience to authority. And yet it's the Christians who will argue most fervently.
It's an admission. Sorry, go ahead.
Christian morality is the only valid sense. Who are that way, who act that way. It's disturbing, so.
It's a bit of an admission, in my opinion, that they don't actually believe the things they profess that they believe. If I could actually confirm that it was because they know, they know they're never going to have to confirm that with God.
But it's also an admission that they know already that being commanded to kill is morally wrong.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But and the thing to do is at that point is say, well, this authority figure, maybe I shouldn't trust this authority figure.
What happens in their brain is, I know it's wrong to kill your kids, and if somebody gave you a command to kill your kid, that would be wrong. But I can't. I better say that if I'm sure it comes from God, because they're getting ready to throw Abraham and Isaac in my face, and blah blah blah. It's a lot easier than that. And one of the things, I just went through this ExploreGod.com initiative here in Austin over 5 weeks. Met some great people, had great interactions, had some great arguments and discussions. It was great. But one of the things that was painfully aware to me is if I had a relationship with somebody and somebody was real, and I wanted to know what they think about something, I would ask them. I would not put together small groups of collections of my friends to sit around in a circle pontificating about what we think this person that we all think we have a relationship with thinks. Now, it's an admission that there's a massive failure of communication between them and their God at a minimum. That they have to sit around and say, well, I think God works like this. Well, I think God works like this. Well, if God's real and actually works at all, we don't need to sit around and offer our opinions. We can actually investigate this. Unfortunately,
and the one source where
true.
and the one source where they say God does that very thing, he tells us he lays his plan right out for us, is a book called the Bible, which everybody interprets.
Yeah.
There's a whole field called theology where one guy says, oh, well, God really means this. Well, I think God actually means this, but if you interpret it this way, what God's really saying is this other thing. But actually, if you go through this kind of interpretation that I found in some obscure 16th century tome, what God really means is X, Y, and Z. So, yeah.
All right, so let's move on and
Let's
take
move
another caller
on.
here.
Yeah.